Hello, Nitroners, and welcome back to another episode of VFX with Natron. So, today's going to be a simpler video. We're going to be just finishing up what we started last time. This past week's been really crazy for me. They were working on our power lines here, and, believe it or not, they cut out my power about 3 or 4 times last week. And then our guest's over for the weekend, and so everything's been delayed, and all just haven't had time to really get as far into this as I wanted to go. So we're gonna just work on sort of getting it to where we wanted to get it at the end of the last video, and we were rushing it, and it really I didn't want to push it too far on that one. Anyway, but this time at least I can show the goal. So today's goal is going to be this. Now, admittedly, this ain't that impressive, but anyway, let's pop over into Natron, and this is where we left off last time. This is our node graph. Let's zoom in a little bit so that we can see it a little bit better. And there were lots of little problems that we ran into. One of the problems we were running into was there were lots of things we may not have seen that were issues, but there were also things that were issues that we were seeing. One of the big ones that we saw was the arrow when it came in. We can see that the arrow over here, this was poking out. That's the arrow from the side. We can see as it animates in. So I didn't get it to clip last week, and I was worried about it. Now I just needed to think about it for a minute, and I didn't want to rush it. So let's actually go over and look at where that's happening, or where that's going to be happening, which is over here on this side over here. So this is our arrow over here. We're going to actually center it on the view. Let's hit center it. We're going to actually set it to 200% here. Let's so that we can see it nice and big. So here's our arrow, and what we want to do is we want to take our arrow and we want to have it clipped by this shape. We want to use this shape to tell it where it is and it isn't. Obviously, the big problem I was concerned about is I didn't know, well, when we look at this, this is offset from this. So the thing that I was concerned about is I didn't want to go playing with it too much, but then I realized it didn't really matter how much we moved it, because the problem that we have, if we look at this, let's go back and look at the final animation or the final shot or angle again. What's happening here is that the arrow is actually the background color, and it is so it can use that shape. So we don't, from the standpoint of clipping this or cutting that out so that it doesn't go off the edge back, where was it? Back here, so that it doesn't go off the edge. We just needed to cut off somewhere in here between where this comes down and where the edge of the subscribe is, or the red, excuse me, the YouTube box thing is. So all right, let's look at that. Actually, I'm going to set that back to 100% so that it looks, so it's cleaner, because it's also going to show us some other issues that we're going to deal with. All right, so how are we going to deal with that? Let me pull up my reference because I want to make sure we get this exactly right. So what we're going to be doing is right here, we put this merge in here to deal with this. Well, if we look at this merge, we're going to put it back to the center. This merge is going to be it. It's going to be what we're going to use. And what I want to do is I actually want to just take this and I want to put the other into it, like so. All right. So now we can actually see what's going on. We merge the two. Now, it's not exactly pretty like this. So why don't we just clean this up a little bit? Let's take this up like that. In fact, let's hit a period there, pull that over about there, and then we're going to hit a period and bring that down, just so that it's organized, so we can see the flow. It's not the prettiest in the world, but it's good enough. All right, and we're actually going to keep it. I think, yeah, we're going to keep it. We're going to keep it there. So this is controlling the mask of this. All right, this is the merge for this. All right, so we can see that that the arrow currently sticks out when it's stationary. It's not, it's staying way far too far out to the side. So what we need to do is adjust this mask. We need to make it so that this mask is all that we see. The only time we see the arrow, this arrow here, is when this arrow is inside of this box. Okay, so that means all we have to do is change our overlay type, or this from overlay to in. Now we can see that didn't actually solve the problem. Actually, it looks wrong at this point. Let me make sure I've got this right. And oh yes, the problem, one of the other problems is we're not dealing with the alpha channel. So we need to enable the alpha channel on the B channel. Just make sure that gets enabled. Okay. When we enable that, now we can see it, and we see it. But the problem is that as we see, it's going the entire length of its animation. So what we need to do is we need to bring this edge, the bounding box of this, of our clipping plane, over, or of this shape. Here, 1 second. We need to bring this shape over so that it's over here somewhere. So all we really need to do is put a transform here. So we're going to hit T, put a transform in here, and let's see. I offset it by 109 pixels. We'll just put it up to we'll put it up to 19, and then we'll scroll up by tens. So we'll scroll this up by tens, and we'll see when we get to 119, you can see it starts cropping in. And when we're at 119, it crops into the point that it's right there. And that's basically cutting it out so that only that bit is showing. So if we look at what it does over here, we can see that it crops it out. Again, let's look at this. We're going to just drop this down a couple times, back and forward. So it's cropping it out like that, so that when it does the final composite and over everything, actually it's over here. Sorry. Oh, well, you know what? We'll look at it back. Well, we can see it actually here. Well, it's still creating it, because this is the thing that's moving it. This is the part that's moving it down in the corner. So right here we will actually see the problem. So if we let's just eliminate this transform. So if we deselect it, we can see that it's currently over the edge. And then when we enable it, we can see that it cuts it out. So that that's how we fix the problem, is by just pushing this rectangle, the shape over, and so that it blends in. All right, so that fixes problem number one. Now, there's some other problems over here. Let's go back to our final corner and look at this. If we get out here, we can see this is really weird over here. Something is funky is going on the left-hand side of our little YouTube shape here. And that is actually because our ROD is too small. We're getting what's called border bleed. And you say, well, what do you mean, Paul? What do you mean border bleed? What does that mean? That doesn't mean much to you. So what we're going to do, let me find where that is on this whole thing. Oh, it's right here. So this rectangle right here is the YouTube rectangle. Let's zoom out and zoom back in over here. So let's look at this again. And let's turn off the overlay so we can see the process. So this is to remember what we did. So this is, we have the square that's got rounded corners, or rectangle that has rounded corners. Then we did a lens distort, and this is where we see the problem. This is where the problem occurs. And you say to yourself, well, what's happening here? Well, the first problem is we're dealing with an ROD. Let's show our overlays again. If we go back and we look at our original shape up here, we can see that the edge goes right up to the edge of this of the ROD. The rectangle has the rectangle's ROD. There's no black on the edges, and you say, "Oh, it's the black border thing." We're telling it not to follow or for it to pull the black borders, and that's partially true. If we look here on the lens distort, we can see that there's this option for black outside. All right, let's check that, and it looks like it's fixed it. all right? But it may or it may not. I ran into a problem where it wasn't really fixing it. And we're also seeing a problem where it's really, really, really harsh and really sharp. I really don't like how anti or non-anti-aliased this became. We can see there's a little bit of anti-aliasing on the edges here, but right through here, it's very, very, very sharp. And it doesn't look very good right here. So we're going to do one other thing, which is we're going to change the type of filtering that we're going to use. And we're just going to go through. We're going to just walk through these one at a time. We're going to look at impulse first. Let's look at it composited over the final thing, the final image down here, so we can actually see it in place. Let's get it. There we go. And we can see it, and it looks a little, it definitely looks a bit weird down here. We're seeing a lot of really funky things going on. All right, so let's see what's going on here. The first thing is, all right, so we fixed it. We fixed the edge with the black outside. All right, and it actually looks like it kind of fixed the edge here. Now look at it says impulse. Okay, we switched it to impulse. We're going to switch through it. We're going to switch to box. Box looks pretty good. Let's look at it actually at 100% so that we can evaluate this a little bit better. I think, all right, so we started, the default is cubic, which is this. And it looks okay, but I think we can get better. And we're going to just walk through these again. So we got box, no, didn't really improve it. Bilinear, cubic. I'm not sure these are actually redrawing, so I'm going to just double click on that, and so it refreshes. All right, we're going to try keys. We're going to go to Simon, or we're going to go to Riffman. All right, the one that I ended up with was, I found that Notch did a really nice job. And did it actually? Yes, it looks like it. So let's compare. Okay, this is cubic. We can see that we can see a little bit of stair stepping. It's not perfectly smooth around the edges. But if we go to Notch, look how much smoother that just became around the edges there. It cleaned it up. And let's actually look at this twice the size, just so we can maybe hopefully see this a little bit better. All right. So again, I'm going to switch it back to cubic. You can see there's just a hint of a stair step right there, and a hint of a stair step right there. Whereas if we go to Notch, that just cleans up so much better. That looks a lot more rounded. Now, one of the other problems I've found is that on reloading this, it sometimes causes some issues, that because this rectangle is very close to the edge. It caused some issues. I don't know. I found that I thought that it needed to, or felt like one of the other things we could do to fix this up a little bit better. Let's just move this rectangle up a bit. And before we do the lens distortion, let's add something called it will add additional ROD to this whole thing. So what do I mean by that? Let's go back to this for a minute. So as I said, the ROD for this is pressed up. It's pressed up right next to the edge of this, of our rectangle. And a lot of times what we want is a little bit of black around the edge. So what I'm going to do is, there's this thing called, if we just type in ROD in here, I believe we'll see down here in the options, we have this one called Adjust ROD. If we click on that, we can add in just a little bit of ROD to this, and we're just going to add 10 pixels of it. All right, and you'll see that it's set to nearest. We don't want it to be nearest. We want it to be black on the edge. Why do we want it to be black? So that we don't accidentally pull those white bits on the edge with it, just in case. Sometimes Natron will read it wrong. The other thing is on a rectangle. Let's check our rectangle and make sure that there's no option to keep it black on here. I don't see anything on here, so we should be good. All right, so that should fix it, and we should wind up with a much better thing. It gives it just a little bit of a buffer around it. It won't change anything because our alpha channel is the same and our center point is in the same, so our animation is going to stay basically in the same spot. So that will fix that part. Now that we've got that fixed, let's look at our actual animation as a whole down in the corner, and let's view this at 100%, and just rewind this and play this through. And we're going to see a couple problems. There's a lot of little problems here. One of the problems is that we don't have any animation on. I don't think we have the subscribe really animated, or if we do, it didn't, in my opinion, look very good. It looked weird because we didn't ease things. But you can see that really fixes up that YouTube symbol. Also, I'm thinking our objects are a little bit off now that I'm looking at it. Our center point for our arrow is just a smidge off, which makes me think we want to just, let's see, I think we want to transform that just a smidge. Let me just, thought I added a transform, did a modification to the transform. Let me just looking at things. Nine. Never want. I think. Just want to verify something. 3. Hold on. Pardon me while I check my reference, because I'm 99% sure I did something, but it was days ago, so I'm not remembering exactly what I did. I thought I moved it over, and yeah, so the end. Yeah, all right. So I felt that after fixing the YouTube, or this picture here, let's show the disable the overlays. I felt once we fixed this edge, now it looks like the arrow's too far to the right, or well, for me it's this way. It would not be on anyway. So what we want to do is we want to move this over one. I think what I did is I went back here, and instead of setting this to 3, I set this to 2, which just notched that over just a bit. 1 pixel just makes that all the world of difference at this size. It looks much more centered there. And then I think I transformed, yep, I added a transform after this point here, which is where, all right, so this is our combined thing. What I want to do is I want to adjust this relative to everything else. So we're going to just adjust this because we don't want to change the animation. We're going to adjust that. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back here. Let's look, and what we're going to do is just add a transform after. All right, so this is the point. This node here is where the arrow came in, and the YouTube the quote screen behind it came in. So we're going to add in right below this. We're going to just add a transform in here, and that for that transform, we're just going to subtract on X. We're going to just go minus 2.5. I just wanted to move it 2.5 pixels to the left, and you can see it just nudged it over a little bit. I felt that was better. It just looked better on that side, and that will allow us to move the subscribe over to the left a little bit. So that's our next thing. We want to take our text over. So we're going to go to our text, and because I don't want to interrupt our animation, I think I want to put a transform before our animation. This is our animation right here, and for the text, so let's well, here, let's so we're gonna just, because I don't want to mess with the actual animation yet. I just want to have something to offset it a little bit. So we're going to just do it, hit a transform there. And for that transform, we're going to, again, I think I moved it. Oh, they moved it exactly the same. All right, so we go minus 2.5, and that should, there we go. That just centers it all. It looks a lot more consistent. This doesn't feel any more. It looks about the right weight for the whole thing. It just feels more solid and more clean. So it's cleanup work, because we couldn't really clean it up until we had all the graphic elements fixed properly. So there we go. So now let's look at this as a whole animation and see if we think this looks good. I had some issues with it, as you probably saw, and you saw that I did a bunch of little extra bits afterwards. One of the problems that I thought I had at the time, was I thought the subscribe looked weird when it came in, when it started where it did. So we're gonna all right, oh yes, and this is another thing, we don't need this to keep going. We're gonna shorten our animation for the preview purposes. We're gonna set this to for now we're gonna set it to 70 frames. All right, that way we can just watch this and we don't have to watch it over and over and over again. So see, to me that just looks weird. It looks like it slows down and then it speeds up at the end, and that has to do actually with the fact that the subscribe, or the outer box, is sliding in and easing in. So and I wasn't thinking about that when I first did this. So the key thing is we really don't want that subscribe to be we don't want that to exist or be animating across that easing at the end, because it will make the subscribe look like it's changing directions, or changing, not directions, changing speeds. So what we're going to do is we're going to modify the animation to that. So let's go to here to our transform here, and what I ended up doing is, let me get to my first frames for that. So we're gonna go to frame, let's see, well, that's not right. It's showing keyframes where there shouldn't be keyframes. Okay, we've got keyframes here that shouldn't be, I don't think. Wait a minute, I'm on, oh no, this one's right, that's right, and let me make sure the other one's right. So yes, 24. So we want 24 and 30, but why do we see extra keyframes? 19. We don't need that keyframe. Let's remove that keyframe from that animation. And we're going to go forward to 54. We're going to get rid of, I want to make sure of this 37. Just want to make sure, yep, we don't need the one at 54. So I'm going to remove this key. So we'll remove that key. All right, so we only need the two keys. Why is there still showing a key there for some reason? Don't know why. Let's see. Well, we'll clean that up in the animation at the end. All right, so what I want to do is, instead of this being on the frame or visible at this point, I want it back here at frame 24. We're going to move it so that it is off of the subscribe is off of the screen to the left. All right, so how do we get it so that it's off the screen to the left? Well, what we would do is we just pull this over, the animation over further, so that we can well, let's just start taking it in a negative direction. And so we're going to set this to negative, I'm actually going to just type it in, negative 267, because I want to go on to other stuff. And you can see that at negative 267, we've got a similar problem to what we had before, where it's not clipping properly. All right, so how do we deal with that? Well, we already know how to do this, or sort of do this. What we need to do is find where that's happening. That's in the text. So this is our text right here. What we want to do is below, let me just think about this. What we want to, below the transform, after it's done its animation right here, we want to do a merge node. So we're going to merge this. And what we want to do is we want to set it so that instead of, whoa, that's not the right thing. Let's pull this down just a little bit so we're not like so tight on space here. So what we're going to do is we're going to switch this. So the B input is going to be disconnected, and then we're going to connect it into the A. And what that's going to allow us to do, it's going to allow us to take our mask and connect it up to the original source of the input for this outline frame, and then it's going to clip it so that when it goes off the frame, it doesn't appear. So now as it animates in, we can see it animates in, and it only is visible when it's on this. All right, so that's the first thing we're going to do. All right, the second thing we're going to do is we're going to we want to, all right, I don't know if you can tell here. Let's see if we can see. You can see right here, might not be super visible, but I'm going to zoom in on it. We can see right here that our subscribe is going behind our little YouTube window and arrow, and we don't want that to happen. This is all white text. We don't want the arrow punching through it, and that's punching through it because the order of these two. Right now, the subscribe is coming in as the background, the B, and the arrow and the YouTube window, or the television window, are coming in as A. So A over B. So we're going to reverse these two. So we're going to disconnect the text for subscribe, going to connect the text for the scribe up to A. Okay, and so there's our subscribe, and then we're going to take the B and we're going to connect it to the other. And now you can see that the arrow no longer comes through it, and the subscribe barely touches that. So we may want to adjust this. I think I may have adjusted the YouTube. Let me just check mine and make sure at that point in time. Let's get over here. There is a couple of other things we did. I did. Nope, I left it in because it's happening. This is going to happen so fast that I feel like, all right, so let's look at this again. All right, actually, we want to look at this at 1:1, and let's look at this from the beginning to the end, and just look at this, the animation as it currently stands. Now this is going to take a minute to render, and we're going to see that while this functions in its current state, that subscribe is moving very, very, very quickly. In fact, everything's moving pretty darn quick. So this is a problem. This is, or would be a problem. If we were to let that just exist the way it is, it would look really funky. And by the way, the reason that this looks a little off is we're not looking at it at 100%. There we go. Let's try that again. There we go. We can see that the subscribe sort of stutters in as it comes in. That's because we don't have any motion blur. Well, this is the whole reason we do our animations with transform nodes. So we want, this was an adjustment up here. This one here is our actual animation. So on our animation, I believe that's our animation. That's weird. I don't see animation on this. But that is definitely where our animation is happening. Well, we're gonna just do our animation there. Wait a minute. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's our animation, unless this is our animation. No. Oh wait, no, that was an animation. Oh, wait a minute. Here's our animations up here. All right, so I was looking at the wrong thing. Those are positional ones. All right, so here's our animation for the one. All we're gonna do is take our motion blur, and we're just gonna plop on one box of motion blur onto each of the animations. So here's an animation over here. We're going to just put one notch of animation there, and then for our text, we want to do I think it was here. Nope, we want to do it on this one right here. We want to add one blob of motion blur, and now when we render it, it will take a little bit longer to render, but it shouldn't take, hopefully, or it might take a long time. All right, that's going to just take too long. But oh wait, no, we weren't playing. Yeah, as I thought, it won't take too long to add the blur. And I think you know what? I don't think we did the blur. We want to add blur to the subscribe box as well, which I believe is happening down here. So we want to add a little bit of motion blur to that. There we go. That'll look a lot better. And this means that the subscribe box, when it comes in, is going to be devoid of actually having anything on it. So it should look a little bit, just a little bit better. And hopefully that will solve everything, and we'll be good to go, and we can move on to the next part, which is, of course, going. All right, it's not actually, I must have not clicked the play button again. There we go. Yeah, this is rendering fast enough. So let me talk about what's going to happen next. So the goal of this, of course, was to just show you guys how you can make a corner thing, or some form of corner stuff inside of Natron. And the goal is to use this as some form of template. Well, technically this is a template. All these bits we can just replace. We can replace anything in here with anything we like, because we're inside of Natron. We have control of every input, of every bit in here. This thing functions. This does not have to be a subscribe button. This could be, you know, whatever. We can change any color in this. We could change any animation in this. But we can use this as an animation for whatever. If we want to change this to Facebook, I don't know why we'd have Facebook, but a Facebook version that looks like this. But as you can see, adding that little bit of motion blur, all the difference in the world. And so there we go. This is good enough. I'll add a little bit of a bubble in and out just to do on the other one. I don't want to occupy too much time with that. This is good enough for us to have something. If you wanted to do the animation, I wanted to just use this card 3D for something else. So I decided that what I would do is I had it so that at one point, I basically, from the beginning of the animation where it's off the screen until it got there, I just moved it back in Z direction one little bit, and then I had to come forward and back and do just a little ring when it just got past the end. When everything got in place right here, I had it kind of, once this kind of locked in place, it sort of bubbles forward so that it sort of punched it in your face. It's up to people if they want to do that. It's not hard. All it is just animating, again, the Z depth here. If I were to just, oh wait, that's a rotation. Whoops. Remove key. Sorry, where was it? Oh, I added an animation. I put keys on the Z depth, which does not have animation on it anymore. But we can see if we just take this and we just bubble this back a little bit. I think I only took it back like 1 or 2 notches like that. And then I just sprung it forward and then back and something like that. And except for because it was animated inside of this, it will animate it as a floating point value and we'll be all good. All right, so the next thing we're going to do is right, we're going to be changing this to, let's talk about how we could modify this so that this could be something other than a subscribe button. Well, we talked about the fact, all right, last time we talked about the fact we could animate any element in this so that we can modify this sort of template, but we don't have to say this as subscribe. We can, you know, change this to goodbye. If we want, we could say Facebook. Book. Because Halloween's coming. Facebook. There we go. And then we could just, you know, change it so that our solid here, we could, you know what? I'm going to copy this. I'm going to copy this just so that we retain our original solid color. I don't want to lose it because I still am using the what was it called? It's the non-stable beta version that uses this funky color palette. Anyway, if we wanted to say make this look Facebooky, we could bring it down to something like colors like that, and lo and behold, we've got something that looks more like it belongs to Facebook. And then we would just replace Wow, that looks terrible. Let's try and redraw this. Okay, let's try and... There we go. All right, it's refreshed. So you could, you know, I'm not saying that this is the Facebook color, but, you know, we could change it. We can change this. This is a template. This is something we can do. The only thing we have to do for the this bit over here, if I wanted to get rid of it, I could, let's see. Well, one thing, I could just simply, I could disable this that bit. Or I could just put in, let's put in an, change it with an F for Facebook. I don't, that's actually a lowercase f, right? I need to look at the low. Yes, it's a lowercase f in a circle. So let's say we wanted to change that. We want to keep it the same spot, but change it with a, instead of doing a rectangle, we want to do it, we want to use this for Facebook. So we go here and we just do a radial, so radial, and we'll put that radial, we can, because we made this, we already know what the size was. I'm going to change this to our template size, or our properties, to 2, so I can have both in here, so I can look at the sizes. So I'm going to just tell it that I want the size to be, I want this to be, let's see, we're going to tell it that it's going to be, we're going to say 916, but, well, we're going to say 510. This isn't going to be right because it's not perfectly square, but it's 80 by 60. We're going to just, you know what, all we got to do is tell it that we want it to be, well, we'll do 80 by 80. Whoops, 80, I didn't hit tab. I hit caps lock by accident. So 80 by 80, and then we're going to just tell it to center it, and there we go. And that should, if everything worked right, when we plug that in, we can see that there's our radio. All we got to do to change this down, we just bring our softness down to like 0.1, should get us a nice soft box, and then we can, for our Facebook, all we got to do is we can change, let's see, instead of using this roto paint for our actual thing, let's put in a lowercase f in white. So we'll put an f in. Let's see. This could actually look wrong now that I'm thinking about it. This is gonna be inverted because this is blue in the background. So we may do. I might change that a little bit. I got an idea for how to do that. Let's do an F. So we're going to do a text. We'll just pop the text in here instead of the roto paint. So we'll take that and we'll just tell it that we want it to center interact, and we want this to just be an F, or a lowercase f, like so. And we're going to just adjust, instead of do it, we'll set the bold, the weight to bold. Is that what it looks like? That kind of looks, it's close enough for all needs. We're going to change it so that this, for our purposes, the Facebook, if it's inverted, it'll still probably work fine. But we can, it would, if we change this too much, it's going to actually look wrong, because that F the template is designed to work with this in a negative, like this. So it's not perfect for Facebook, but we could change it. But to fix this, to fix the offset here, all we really need to do is take the, let's turn off that radio. Let's set this back to 1. And then we'll go up here to our top, and we'll just take this down in 10, all right, we took it down 10 pixels. That actually looks pretty darn close to good right there, but I think we may want it like, I don't know, something like that. And then we want to bring it off to the side like so, maybe, I don't know. It's like it's about there. So it's not perfect. We need to also bring this up in size a little bit. Font size 64, 65. Maybe there. I don't know. Good enough. 68 brought it up. It's a bit weird. Let's bring that up just a smidge more. And this over to the left a bit, touch more. And that's looking much more like, well, it's still a little off. It's actually high now that I'm looking at it. So, oh, there. So there you go. So now, does this work for Facebook? Did our little template that we just made for this, does it function for Facebook? You got a little, oh, that's the blurby on the edge. Might need to push that off to the side a little bit further because we're catching the edge of the motion blur at this point. So that's easy. Just put it another 10 pixels over to the side and you'll fix that motion blur issue. Anyway, let's watch this one more time just to show we can use this as a template. We've made a template. This is an easy template for a graphic that uses this style of thing. And okay, we do need to move obviously the transform for the lens stored is, or for that, the upper thing is too, or the circle is too big because it was designed for something that was 60 and this is 80. And it's actually, I'm seeing some bleeding on the edges, which is not good, but you get the gist. Let's shrink that a little bit. Let's fix that. Just because we can. Instead of 80 by 80, let's just change it to 70 by 70. And then, and we'll center it. It is going to make it look a little bit off, and it means we're going to have to shrink our font a little bit. So we'll shrink this back down to, say, 64. And then we'll reset the center. There we go. And we'll bring that down. Bring that back up. So, oops, too much. Right about there. That's pretty good. That reads as Facebook, and let's just watch it one more time, just to see. And I think we're going to call this, after this little animation, oops, after we do this, we'll call it, because I don't want today's episode to go on too long. It's a Monday, and I usually do other things on Monday evenings at this time. So, but I wanted to make sure we get something out. Oh yes, and for YouTubers who've been watching, my apologies. Anybody who's been following YouTube, I've been having some YouTube issues related to the fact that well, there's been a few things, mostly related to the power outage. All right, so we can see that transform there would indeed have to be adjusted a little bit for the radio. So this, you know what, we will find the original point. Let's go back to its, oh, it's right there. So right here, all we have to do to fix this is push this up a little bit further. There we go. And that problem is fixed, or should be fixed. Let's check our curve editor, make sure that it's working. There we go. It looks good because we didn't change the end animation. So there, let's watch that one more time. Yeah. So, right. I had some problems with getting stuff uploaded to YouTube, and getting stuff up. I've been running into random power outages, and it was causing issues. I worked on several things several times and had some issues. just look at our time. I want to keep this a nice short one. We're about 40, just over 45 minutes on this episode. We can see. Indeed, this can work as a template for something like Facebook. And again, it's very easy now that we've got this basic layout set up to go back in and fix. We could change this to other things. If you want to change this now, admittedly, if you want to change any of the graphics, you do have to adjust a few, parameters, but it works as a, this is a, whoa, wait a minute, I was off on my, I was off on the F. Apparently we weren't at the right point when we set up that F, but oh well, we get the point. It's good enough. So there we go. We can see that it works. Okay. All right, I can't leave it like that. That's going to drive me batty for the text. So let's see. That's right here. That's this. Right, we want to adjust this so that it's not 525. Let's try 520. Oh wait, no, that was right. 25 are there. We want this, 64. We want to bring this back to, that looks about right. So one more time. I can't shoot Natron. It's not Natron's fault. That is, however, it didn't. Oh, I swear I clicked it. Every time I think I click it, it doesn't click. All right. So, also going to let people know that this is a busy time of year for me. Normally, when there isn't a pandemic, and while there is still a pandemic going on, a lot of things are opening up. I am going to let people know that depending that I might have to change the days of when this shouldn't hopefully affect YouTube all that much, other than the fact that I haven't been able to upload because I've been I lost my I run Wi-Fi here for this as opposed to I'm wired because of where the router is located, anyway, the point is that I have I've been having issues with the connection to the Wi-Fi in to wall files. Add that little S at the end, wall files, and I've been having problems with and I've been having problems with power and all kinds of just annoying bits. But there we go. Now we've got Facebook variants. Might not be the exact blue. It's actually not. I'm looking at the blue over here and looking at the blue. It's more of a sky blue, more leaning into cyans, and then it goes down. But anyway, that's good enough to show our example of what we're doing, and to get off the idea that we can make a various templates, and all we have to do to change it, all we'd have to do is, if we want to switch this back to the other, is reconnect our original ones in. So let's see. Here's our, how hard is it? Well, let's see. I'll connect in my red. There's my red. Change my text from Facebook back to YouTube. So YouTube. Change. Whoops. I think I just disconnected. I believe I disconnected. Well, that's all right. I'm going to just leave it disconnected for right now because I forgot. I wasn't looking where it was. Oh, okay. No, I'll see where it was. So this, wait a minute. Right, no, this connection there. There we go. Then we take and we, instead of a radio, we put the rec, which we need to deselect, and then we'll take the enable, which is basically hitting D to enable it, and then we hook up the arrow again, and we're back to YouTube. Surprise, surprise, not very hard. Worked pretty well. And did it work? Did it work as a template? Sure, we can put whatever we want into this and use this as sort of a little template. We just have to put something into each of the inputs. We need to mark these. So we could say, you know, we could add little markers in here if we wanted. We could plot backgrounds in here. If you really want to make this into a template, put in a background, a backdrop, excuse me, like so, and we could just tell it that this backdrop, let's grab that backdrop, for example, and let's grab that backdrop. Can't grab it. By the way, if you hold the shift, I thought it was, nope, not shift. It's not shift. It must be control. Yeah, if you hold control, you can pull around the backdrop without pulling the nodes in it around. So there we go. So we can put this, we can name this backdrop. We could call that, you know, whatever we wanted. That way people know that that's where the source is. So this would be, for example, this is well, we want to pause this so we can actually type something in here. We would say that this is the play arrow, because that's what I call that, the little arrow that looks like play arrow. Okay, so or actually we don't want to do it there. Well, we do want to do it there because change that a little bit. So we'll put that there like so it's readable like that. And so you can see that we've got a play arrow, and then you could put, you know, that for input 1, so you know where you plug it in. And then if you wanted to do the other one, you just put it up here. You could say, you know, duplicate this. We don't need the roto paint. Whoops, Control Z. We don't want that roto paint, but we can take this instead, put this up here and change it so that backdrop. This backdrop instead is the TV screen, because that's what I think that is. And then we'll do one more for a couple more. So there, can get rid of this. Oop, did it again, like that. You know what? While I'm doing this, I'm going to just copy it one more time. So what we're going to do here is we're going to say over here. This is our because this is overlapping, I'm going to just pull that up out of the way, so to speak, so it's just a little bit easier to read for right now. But we could put this like that, and then we put this is this over here for this, and actually here we'll actually, it wouldn't be this one because it would be this one right here. This will be, put that there, and then what we'll do is on this backdrop over here, we'll say instead of TV screen, we'll just tell it this is our you know, subscribe. That's not subscribe. There we go, subscribe text, and over here, this is the icon color, or background color. All right, there we go. So we've labeled it so that we know. And the only reason that this is the blue one, this one should be the one because that's the new YouTube. There we go. And so we can see. There we go. So now you can use this as a template. So you know that, oh, if I want to replace the TV screen with something else, I just put something else in there and I'll pop it in and just make sure it fits within it. Now I want to replace the play arrow, I'll move it away, put something else in there that works, place it in it. If I want to change the text, well, the text, I just change the text because it's easy to put in whatever text you want. If I want to change the background color, I can pick a new color, or I could duplicate the color and put something else in there. For example, this, which isn't really, let's see if we can get actually, let me see if I can get this closer to YouTube, or to the actual bluish color of sort of Facebooky blue, sort of in here, more like sort of there. Let's see if that works. All right, so we go there, and then if we were to look at this out of there, that's close to that's actually, it looks a lot more like what Facebook's looks like, except for it says YouTube. But we can see easy peasy to change this as a template for whatever you want it to be. You can change your color, you can change whatever you want very easily. If we want to change our animations, well, then we got to just go in and fix our animations. You can mark your animations fairly easy. You just look for ones that actually have keyframes in them, and you know that's the animation for that particular branch. So in this case, we see the play arrow right below it. It has a transform. That transform happens to be the transform that does the animation because it has keyframes on it, because it's blue. This one for here, our subscribe text, we had to transform that, fix the offset, because we wanted to be able to offset our text any way we want based off of, you know, what it says. For example, right now, this YouTube, it's not, well, it's actually not too badly aligned relative to the space between here and here, but it's not perfect. But we could adjust it. This allows us to adjust it side to side without affecting our animation. So I could, you know, change this. If I wanted this to end up over here instead, I haven't affected my animation because my animation is on the transform below it. Makes it easier. Anyway, and yep, and then we have the Card 3D, which is doing the rotations and so forth here, and we could do anything that we want to do as far as like 3D boingies or rotating it around. Now remember, this is flat. This is not actually really 3D. It's only perspective 3D and rotating and stuff like that. And when you get it to facing the opposite direction, it will probably still show up. I don't know if it automatically backface calls, which gets rid of the back faces. Anyway, so right, so today's goal was this, was fixing the animation so that we got this, and I think or something along the lines of this, and I think we pretty much got that. So yeah, thanks for watching and keep on Natroning.